The questions that people ask you afterwards might become new chapters in your book and make your book even better.
That's a good idea.
Take people in on that journey. So we got Michael in the house. Michael's part of Movie Makers, been with us for the year and is back. And as part of that, we do IG Live to see how we can help and go further. So what do you got, man? How can I help?
I have a question. I want to be an author, speaker, and a coach, but first I want to be an author, and I want to do fiction and nonfiction and infuse my message with that. Mm-hmm. So what my question is, what would be the best way to position myself to be an author?
So what's the first book?
My first book, I want to do a nonfiction book. It's called Bridging the Gap. It's a book about bridging the gap between able-bodied people and disabled people. And it's just telling my story and having messages like that.
And how far away from being done is the book?
Oh, a few months. Being honest, I just started.
And have you worked through the process of like your cover and the layouts of the pages, or it's like a few months from a manuscript being done?
I know what the cover is going to be, but I haven't worked out the layout because honestly, I don't know how to do that. I'm just in the writing stage right now.
Okay, cool. Are you going to self-publish it? Are you looking to get a publisher?
I'm going to self-publish it.
Okay. So the good news with that is, you're in control of your own timeline.
Yeah.
And it makes sense, honestly, for your first book to just get it out there and build some momentum, and you have something people can go and check out. Couple things. Is your question around just creating the book, or your question is around marketing the book, or where are you stuck?
Marketing. Because I want to let people know that I am an author and I'm doing this, and just a great buzz around it so that when it's done, people know it's happening or it's happened, and I can get it out to people. Cool.
So you have there's a parallel plan of action. Okay. One is you're using other people's audiences. So whenever you see some new author come out, or an author with a new book come out, they're going on other people's shows, spreading the message and letting people know. And you're hoping to tap into that person's audience. Like anybody here watching, you're already tapping into my audience, and they can learn about you and what it's all about. But when you're in book launch mode, you're thinking everybody who you've done, anybody who's in your network, anybody who you've done an interview with, anybody who you've had on your show, you're asking for help and support in the book and on launch week.
Okay.
Right? So whenever launch is out, you have a reason to go on people's shows and reconnect with people who you like. Make a list of everybody who has ever emailed you, who you've ever been on their show, any new connections, people who follow you on Instagram. If it's not that big a number, like for Instagram, for example, I'd be sending a video DM to everybody who follows you.
Okay.
Like how many people follow you on Instagram right now?
2,500.
Perfect. So 2,500 video DMs. It's like you're doing 90 a day for a month and you get it out.
Okay.
Right. So it's a lot of personal relationships and just asking. And some people will say, some people won't respond. Some people will say no, and some people will say yes. And it's not, most of the time it's not personal. It's just timing and everything else. Angela says, I'll buy the book. So there you go. You already got some. So like Angela, you should go on Angela's show.
Yeah.
When you've already been on Angela's show, right?
Yes, I have. And she's been on mine.
Right. So round 2 should be like when you got a book to actually talk about.
He was my first guest.
Angela was your first guest?
She was, yeah.
Amazing. I love it. What a first guest. That's great. Yeah. Angela's awesome. So phase 1 is you're tapping at other people's audiences. And the way to ask, who just messaged me? I'm thinking about Lisa Bilyeu, who I just had on. Her book comes out on May 10th. So I just interviewed her. And the video's going to drop on May 8th. And the message was, hey, I'm launching my new book. We obviously know each other, so it's not like a random Instagram follower. But she said, totally okay if you don't want to promote it. If you have space and time and it's open, I'd love to try to get more awareness, right? And that's basically the approach. It's like, hey, I've got this new book. Here's what it's all about. Hopefully it's a fit for your audience. I appreciate your friendship. If there's any space to really come on and talk about it to your audience and do an Instagram Live or a Zoom, I super appreciate it, and no pressure either way, right? And you do that for everybody who you've connected with. And so ideally in launch week and even that whole month, you are lining people up and doing as many interviews and shows as you can. And try to block off time from whatever other responsibilities you have, that might get in the way, so that you can do 5 hours a day of interviews with people, right? That's a short-term strategy to get the book out, and hopefully in the audience you have people who then end up buying. So that's round one, right? People who connected to, and people who follow you, you're reaching out and DMing and say you've got this new book. Phase two is a longer-term approach, which is making content. And the idea then is you're not just tapping in other people's audiences, but you're building your own audience in the process. Because you have more than just one book in you, right? You've got multiple books coming out. You've got everything else that you want to do. So building up your own audience. And that's where the content comes in. You're doing your shows. I know you do your show with Lady Lexi. You got a new show with Nick now. You're doing all this content, which is great. And that starts getting people into your world so that they are potentially interested not just in this book, but in future books. So that if you have 2,500 followers now, by the time the next book comes out, that's 25,000 followers or 10,000 followers or 100,000 followers or 1 million followers or whatever it is, people following you on your journey. The content game is a much longer term approach. But it's worth it because you're going to be doing this for a while and you got a lot of books inside you. So it's usually that combination. Like the immediate hit is the shows that you can go on right now, and then the ongoing long-term brand play for all your future books is you're constantly building your own audience up as well.
Should I, as I'm writing the book, should I do videos on each chapter to like give people an overview or advertise?
For sure. Tie it into your content. So, and not just your own content, but the other content that you're doing. So if you go on somebody else's show, like you should be tying it into this episode right now. So we can make it very meta. So we're talking, we're doing a coaching session here, which is great. What chapter in your book most relates to what we're talking about right now?
It's probably the beginning, like just you're starting your story and getting yourself comfortable enough to go forward with your journey. Great.
So you bring it up like this. So, hey, Evan, I'm writing my new book. What's it called?
Bridging the Gap.
Bridging the Gap. So I know, and so you mentioned it before, but now we mention it.
The tagline is starting a conversation to end the stigma.
Cool.
That's like
that you can get in. I wouldn't bring that up every time. Like it's called Bridging the Gap.
Yeah.
So I'm writing my new book. It's called Bridging the Gap. And, in chapter 1, I'm talking about just the comfort to share my own story and get out of my comfort zone and feel like my story has meaning and purpose. And right now I'm struggling with how do I get more marketing on my book? So you're trying to tie in, we're talking about it without talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
So it's not a surprise that, hey, Michael's got this book coming up.
Yeah,
so now you're orienting like me towards book, but anybody who's watching live or on the replay gets to hear about the book. And so you're trying to bring up the name. So Bridging the Gap. Now remember, because you said it twice, right? You said it the first time. I forgot it the first time. And now I remember the second time, right? And so think about with your show with Lady or your show with Nick, there's always something that you're talking about on the show that's going to relate to something that's in the book.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So you try to bring that up. It's not don't think of it as like a promotion. I mean, it's a promotion strategy, I guess, but it's more about value to the conversation. Because whatever you're talking about with your co-host, you could tell 5 different stories. You've got lots of stories that you could share. So choose to pull one from the book. So it allows you to talk about the book. And then hopefully one of the hosts picks up on that and then asks you, oh, so how's the book coming along, Michael? Where are we at? It's like, oh, I still got 3 months away and I'm still working on my design and my cover and I'm looking for somebody to help me. Oh, maybe that sparks like you should talk to this person.
Okay.
You know, or maybe someone in the audience says, "Oh, how about connecting to that person?" Right? I mean, you should talk to Terry for sure. Terry does a lot of the book stuff. Even in you asking the question, like it starts guiding the host and the conversation towards now talking about the book. And it doesn't have to be heavy-handed. It's not like you come in and said, "I need to talk about my book, and it's the only thing we're talking about today," right? You're not going to do that. But making sure to try to bring it up wherever you can inside content, but the structure be not just your own content, it'd be other people's content too, or your co-hosting shows from the co-hosted content as well.
Okay, all right. I like that. Okay,
and that starts now. I mean, you're 3 months away from having a manuscript done, and then it's editing, and then it's copy and cover design and uploading to Amazon and getting approved and all of the take people in on that journey.
Yeah. And wait that long because all that time will be lost and wasted.
Not necessarily wasted. I mean, it's going into the writing, but it's not going into the marketing. It's not going into the storytelling. And you could have people, who knows, maybe somebody watching this becomes the next great connection for you. I mean, I introduced you to Nick. Yeah, that 2 days ago. Was that good?
That was amazing, by the way. Thank you.
What a great guy, huh?
The first few minutes, we knew we wanted to do a show.
And that's great. I don't even know how you joined my live stream while I was playing League of Legends, and I don't even know how I got to Nick and you. But for whatever reason, you being there made me think of Nick. It's like, these guys should connect. And now you're hosting your own show together. It's fantastic.
That was great. Yeah.
So it's showing up, being on people's shows, and then talking about what you're going through and what you're excited about and what you're struggling with in terms of the book project. And it'll start to align people towards wanting to help you with the book project.
Okay. That's good. That sounds good. That's all I really need help. I mean, I'm gonna keep going with after writing. I'm gonna transition to speaking and coaching, but that's later on. Because I'm honestly, part of the reason I'm doing the shows is because I'm not as good of a speaker as I want to be, and I'm trying to become a better speaker.
Sure. We're always in the I'm getting better as a speaker too. Yeah. Right. We're always in a constant journey of improving and getting better, which is part of the fun. I think doing shows is great. It helps. A lot of speaking is more like having not quite a set speech, but it's not as interactive. Like when you have a co-host, it's a different vibe than if you're the guy on stage doing it. So if the goal is to be a speaker, you'll get better practice probably just talking to the camera, because when you step on stage, it's Michael solo. There'll be someone introducing you, Michael, whatever, and then you get on stage and start doing your thing. But it's mostly you, and so the best practice would be direct to camera, or even better is like going and speaking at YMCA's or Lions Club. I mean, I started at the YMCA, but libraries, like anything that, whether it's paid or not, you have a live audience of 7 people to go and talk to.
Not so much the paid, so it's just about the doing right now, getting the message out.
So you where do you live? What city are you in?
Las Vegas.
You're in Vegas. I knew you were in Vegas because we were talking about meeting up when I come, and Zan's there too. I mean, there's so much in Vegas, and not just like strip, but just schools and libraries and YMCA's and Lions clubs and whatever. That if that becomes a goal, then obviously the book is priority right now. But I'd be looking at that can help sell the book too. Like you go and speak, and part of that, they may not pay you to speak, but they might buy your books. Yeah. A lot of authors end up selling their books from speaking gigs. Okay. Where you could be at the back afterwards taking questions and signing books. Like it could be a book signing event where you're speaking, and then people who want can buy your book and get a signed copy because you're there. Okay.
The reason I like empowering discussion so much is because I'm the only host. So it's just me and the guest I have. So that's a lot more, just me talking, which helps a lot.
Yeah, and when you end up speaking, it's you without, unless you're going to bring a guest on with you on stage. But, it's mostly going to be you.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be the skill set you practice and work on a lot now, but that'll be for anybody who wants to be a speaker, you should be out speaking.
Yeah.
Like once a month, go out and speak. And what's usually great is even if the bar is pretty low for most speakers. For most of like the small events, like to speak at a library or a high school or a community club or something, the bar is pretty low.
Yeah,
and a lot of the organizations are just craving for people to come in and share their story and help, because a lot of people are really struggling. So if you go in and do a good job, even a half decent job, they'll probably want you to come back.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah. Yeah.
So once you get the ball rolling a little bit, it's not that hard. If the goal was to speak every 2 weeks, you might get that just from 2 different organizations where you're coming in once a month and talking to them.
Okay. That's good.
I've been thinking there was Toronto. I live in Toronto. There's a Enterprise Toronto, which is a local government organization that helps entrepreneurs get their business started. Mm-hmm. And they had these morning seminars that they would run and I would speak at. And this is early days of my speaking career. And I just wanted to have human contacts. It's not just me on YouTube. It's like, I get to see somebody, shake hands and help them. And I went in once, and then they wanted me to come back, I don't know, every 2 weeks, every month, and just do it again until I just couldn't commit to the schedule anymore.
Oh, nice.
That's the speaking game. Like you start off, you do a whole bunch, you do it for free. You end up then getting paid $100 or $200 or whatever. And you work your way up to bigger and bigger opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
But that could be a great place to talk about the book, promote the book. If you can film it, even better, because now you have content for a YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. And people see you as a speaker.
Okay.
I don't know how high priority level that is for you right now, but
that's probably right below author, honestly.
Well, then what's stopping you from reaching out to all the local libraries and high schools and saying, "Hey, I'm a speaker"?
I didn't know that they did speeches at libraries. Honestly, I should look into it more. I've checked out the TED Talks, but I didn't see anything.
TED Talks are good too. TED Talks are a lot more structured. You have to have it a certain amount of time, and still in Vegas, there's still going to be a lot of TED Talks that come through. Libraries for sure. Libraries have tons of stuff.
Yeah,
high schools, you might have to just do more outreach.
Okay.
Like libraries will often have on their website a list of activities, a list of events, and list of talks, and list of stuff that's happening. Okay. High schools is more obviously around the school year, so you're still good for now, but summer wouldn't be as good. And they have assemblies, and people come in and speak at us. The easiest one. Did you grow up in Vegas?
New York. I moved to Vegas about 20 years ago.
Okay. Did you go to high school in Vegas?
I graduated in 97, so I've been out of school after since I've been here.
Okay.
I moved here in 2002.
So, any connections to high schools, elementary schools?
Okay.
Friends, anybody. Like, hey, if they have kids, I'd like to, or you can just email out to the schools themselves. Like, it's not that high. You just let them know you're focused on bridging the gap. Tell them a quick pitch. It's not like the highest bar to come in and speak at a high school assembly. Yeah. But great experience. And dude, you've got such a moving story. It's definitely going to inspire some people in the room.
Oh, thank you.
Any organizations where people who are recently disabled? Mm-hmm. I don't have to tell you how much people struggle with that, how to deal with adjusting. So whatever, I don't know, I'm not as familiar with what's going on in Vegas with community organizations, but definitely are.
Yeah.
To come in and reach out. And the unfortunate thing is there's people becoming disabled every day, right? And they're struggling with it every day. So you could be in there every week speaking to a new group of people and sharing your story and helping them. I mean, that's a huge, huge need.
Yeah.
So getting plugged into that, again, you could be there every week or every month. It becomes whatever frequency you end up wanting to do it at. Yeah, like I would start, if that's your number 2 priority, right behind writing. Then and they go very well together.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Like speaker and author are very complementary things. Like honestly, speaking will make you a better author, because when you're speaking, like writing a book, a nonfiction book, is basically, they're both coaching. Like you want people to learn something and then make an improvement or mindset shift in their life that they take home and change something in their life, right? Like from your story, I'm going to be inspired to then make a change in my life. Otherwise, what's the point of writing a nonfiction book? So you're coaching without any feedback, or at least when you're speaking, you get feedback afterwards. People come up and say, hey, how about this? Like the questions that people ask you afterwards might become new chapters in your book and make your book even better.
That's a good idea.
Because you're seeing what resonates.
I've written fiction before, but I've never written a nonfiction, so I'm struggling with the structure right now to look at what the order of things should be.
Well, that's where speaking then can be fantastic, because your speech has a structure to it. Yeah. So the speech should be a pared down version of the book. Like I could do a speech on Built to Serve, but then if they want more details, they can go buy the book. But the Built to Serve book is based off of me doing a lot of mostly coaching and some speaking around the concepts there, but then you know what works. Because if you go on stage and you tell the first story that's in your book, maybe that lands, maybe it doesn't land. You know, you don't know until you actually start. I mean, I think all my stories are great, but you don't know until until you actually start talking to people and testing it out. Yeah. But when you go off and give a speech and you tell a couple stories, and then afterwards, the best part is afterwards people come up to you and say, hey, Michael, wow, that was so inspiring. How did X? And they ask you questions. Whatever story they're asking the most questions around, or whatever follow-up they're asking after listening to your speech, that's all great content for what you know works well, that then should be in the book.
Okay. That's a good idea.
So they work super well together. Even as you're playing through your material, which story should you tell? You can test it from a stage.
Okay.
Even if the stage isn't 1,000 people, but the stage is whoever's is in the room, and then the feedback afterwards will definitely make you a better writer. Okay, for sure. Good. My book Built to Serve came because I was on a speaking tour.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
People kept asking the same question. I wasn't even on tour talking about Built to Serve. I was talking about something else. And people kept asking me the same questions in every city, which led to I should just write a book on this, which then became Built to Serve.
Yeah. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, it's a good idea.
So it's great to get the feedback. So yeah, I mean, I would just start making a list today of, you're in Vegas, so it's not even noon yet.
No, it's
so you got time. Make a list of high schools, libraries, community organizations, especially ones related to disability, somehow newly disabled people, and any other community groups in Vegas that might be a fit for what you're doing.
Okay.
Build out a list of a couple hundred places, get their email addresses, and just start emailing people and say, I'll come and speak for free to your audience. Here's my topic. Okay. You'll get like, if you only do 10, you may not get any, right? Yeah. But if you make a list of 100, you'll get at least 5.
I do 400 and get 10 yeses, I'm good.
Yeah. But that's it. So like most people, they won't do enough of the outreach. They'll make a list of 4 and email all 4, and they don't hear a response. And so then, I guess that strategy didn't work.
Yeah.
But if you can actually make a list of 400, you will get at least 10.
Yeah.
And then you're off and speaking.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that's exciting, man.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. I've been looking forward to this. Yeah.
Yeah. So you got a couple months out. So, strategies, recap, we got reaching out to all of the shows that you've been on and all the co-hosts that you've had and all the guests you've had and asking for support. Video DMing everybody who follows you on Instagram and telling them that you got your new book out and you'd love the support. No expectations, just letting them know what you've done. 90 people a day for a month.
Yeah.
Get those videos going 8 seconds at a time, the hand-to-hand combat. Continue to make your own content and pouring in stories from the book and lessons as much as possible, so it's not a surprise for people to hear that you're an author, that everybody knows you're working through this book. And then for speaking, it's starting to reach out to YMCAs and libraries and high schools, make a list of a couple hundred and reach out and say you've got a story to share about bridging the gap and start getting some speaking gigs.
Great. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
You got it.
If you want to see another awesome one-on-one I did with an entrepreneur just like you, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
Start right now. Start small. Start as soon as possible. Honestly, I think you could do a lot just going back to your roots. You've got the heart,